that he was riding on Jesus' coattail to a certain extent. And so he was trying to, let people know, hey, I got it going on. I got this famous man. He's coming to my dinner. And he's kind of like what we consider today the up and coming new minister of the hour. Everybody runs to their church, or they invite him over to speak at their church. And he is the up and coming, what we would consider to be today, the up and coming minister. And so he knew that he would get a crowd coming. Some of the other things that that we talk about, we're going to move on to verse 37. So there's a few things that stick out to me in verse 37. And then I'm kind of teach you a little bit about what the tradition is. So the first thing you see right here is the word behold. Behold means to see or to observe a thing or a person, especially something that's remarkable or impressive. Now that word by itself kind of makes you think, it takes you back, because what comes after that word is that they try to put the woman down, right? So, but if it's something remarkable, something impressive, and you say behold, and then you take the second breath, kind of like commentators in the they talk about my Cowboys, they talk about how great they are, and then in the next second, they talk about how we don't even know why they even in the league. I mean, I'm just saying. So, behold. And then it says, a woman in the city. And the first thing comes to me is that this woman was somebody they knew. And they knew her well. Then they call her a sinner. Stay out my lesson. Stay out my lesson. But you're right. No, go ahead. Say what you're going to say. Why?
If you already knew she was sinning or doing wrong, then why else try to help her?
Exactly. Right? Why nobody said anything?
And I'm thinking, how did you know?
How did you know? That's a good question. These are all y'all in my lesson. Y'all are in my lesson. So the other part of that, I said, so what? Two things come to mind. How did she get there? Why is she still there? Was it that she had a very public divorce, or was she caught in adultery? Sometimes they brand you with an A. That's our culture, I think, actually. Was she an alcoholic or an addict? How did they know? And why did they leave her in the same state that she was in? Exactly. So, and why had no one ministered to her yet? I said, did Jesus have to come from a long distance just to help deliver this woman? Because she didn't have no one in the city to help her with her deliverance? Ooh. And where was the church? This woman was broken and needed healing. Where was the church? She couldn't find a healing word in the church. Wow. And then I asked the question, how did she know that Jesus was her saving grace? That Jesus would be the one that would have, what was it about Jesus that lit up, that allowed her to know that something would change? That something would manifest? That life would be never the same from this very moment? What was it?
She, like everybody else, she knew that Jesus was at the house of this man. Mm-hmm. She had heard about him, like we had heard about him. Mm-hmm. We had felt it, the song. But anyways, and then, when Jesus was getting ready to save us, bring us out of the world, he had a message for me, in my own heart.
Right.
So she knew that he was the saving person. And if he would go to those people's house to eat with them, the sinners, if she was a sinner herself, then he could help me too.
That's right.
Because there's no little sin and no big one. All sin is sin.
Sin is sin.
And so she was on the right track because she was going to the right place.
That's right.
She did.
That's right. So this message is more about Christians than it is actually this woman. Because the woman had a need, just like we got a need. And she didn't allow anything to stop her from getting to Jesus about her need. So we continue. The woman,
she took all that she had with her.
she took all that she. That's right.
She wanted to give him her very best.
Her very best.
That's what she had to do.
Ooh, that'll preach by itself. That'll preach by itself. She wanted to give. She was ready to accept Jesus. She was ready, and not only she wasn't confused about who he was. She went straight to the table where he was sitting at, or leaning back in the recliner, some people would say. Leaning back on the couch, had his feet propped. You know, you can just imagine what he was chilling after. You know how we get after we eat? You know, we get a little full, we kind of get a little sleepy. So he was chilling over there. And she went straight to him. Okay, two more things I want to point out. One, whatever obstacle she had in her way, whatever, the crowd, the people, the host, she didn't let it stop her from reaching her goal. Number two, she didn't come empty-handed, like sis said. She was willing to give everything she had or anything that she held dear to Jesus. She was willing to give it all up. The definition, I'm going to tell you the definition of the alabaster box is that it's a soft stone preserved for the quality of precious and expensive perfume. Small flask. What you think about flask? Y'all probably don't know nothing about that. Look, I know what a flask is. Yeah. So, anyway, so she's two things in verse 38, and then we're gonna try to move a little bit faster. First, let me ask y'all have any comments first, because I can get fast. You know how I do. I'll roll on. Okay. No comments? Good. Okay, let's move on. So, she stood behind her. She didn't try to force her way in. She didn't try to set up a position for herself. She just became humble. And then she began to weep. She began to cry because she realized her state. Did she deserve forgiveness? That's what I'm thinking. This is me paraphrasing what I'm thinking in her mind. Did she feel ashamed or embarrassed about what she had done in her past? Weeping because she truly understands the sacrifice that Jesus was. For us, weeping shows us that we truly understand the sacrifice that Jesus made for us. When we're caught in our minds on a level of humility that help you to admit that you really don't deserve it. It's not about deserving. It's about accepting what he already did. So, I said to myself, I would weep too. As I began to think about what Jesus did for me and how he sacrificed everything for me and how I didn't deserve it. How that as I began at one point, God was sharing with me how as they put the crown of thorns on his head, for each one of the thorns that embedded into his head and made him bleed, that was one of my sins. And when the man pierced him in his side and stabbed him and the blood began to rush out, or even before that when he was on the whipping post and they began to hit him with that post that had nails and broken pieces and would lash into his back and rip him out when it comes out, that was one of my sins. That would make me weep. Because I realized that I don't deserve it. So I feel like the woman was standing there. It says that she stood first behind him, showing that she was humble. And then I could just imagine the weight of her feeling and decisions about her situation, how she understood it all, I just feel like she just kind of fell to her knees. It's the way I see it. She just kind of fell to her knees and began to weep some more. And as she began to weep, I just see her leaning over Jesus' feet and beginning to cry out to Jesus in the only way that and it says that she never said a word. Yet she is speaking to us. And they have devoted a whole passage of scripture just for this, which means it's extremely important. Blinded by her tears, she began to fall, and she understood the magnitude of this moment. That she was about to be changed forever. Wow. So in the middle of her, blinded by her tears and understanding the magnitude of the moment, she began to wash his feet with her hair. Now we know that back in the days they had dusty roads, and so his feet probably was crusted and muddy and all kind of stuff, and might even been stinking a little bit, from the heat of the desert and different things of that nature. And she begins to weep and the tears and began to wipe his feet with her hair. Now women, I know the men don't know, but women, we love our hair. We take great lengths to do it up. We pay good money to get it fixed. So she's down there letting Jesus know that you are the most important part. You're more important than anything that I could give by wiping with her hair. Extravagant love.
When you come to Jesus, you must when we really come to him, we know why we're doing it. Mm-hmm. Don't just tell the joy, because you come to the person that will do something about it.
Something.
Because she was trying to lead with those men and those other people, they never did anything to help her.
Right.
They used her because she knew it.
Uh-huh.
She was a prostitute, so he probably did this with her, but he didn't. He wanted to ridicule her when he did before Jesus, and Jesus already knew. Mm-hmm. You may not get to that part of that lesson because of time, but he told them they did.
Oh, we're going to get there.
All right, let's get there.
We're going to get there. So then he tells them, hey, I got something to tell you. Yeah. And then the man says, go ahead. Because he's thinking about, I'm telling y'all what I thought. He's sitting there thinking about, the food was good and I had all this. It was looking nice. And he's sitting there thinking, Jesus going to say, man, you did that thing. He didn't. He did not. And so he tells him, he says, well, she kissed his feet, anointed his head. We know that. She poured out her soul before him in front of everybody. Typically, the church or the religious folks didn't see what was really going on here. Their focus was off. See, the real reason that Jesus was invited was because of his influence and not because of his heart. And typically, sometimes the church is very judgmental in their attitudes. And this raises the questions, whose focus was it? What was the focus about? Was it about Jesus? What was it really all about? And so they overlooked this miracle that was getting ready to happen. This miracle was taking place right before their eyes, but they were focused on tradition and focused on the things of the past and focused on the stuff that she had already done.
Being better than somebody else.
Exactly. Jesus was in rare form, though. Because he read him his rights, we call. So he began to read him his rights and he began to school him right here. He tells him, he said, I got something to say. He tells him, go ahead, because he thinking he's finna brag on him. Yeah, the food was good, the music was good, the house looking all ready. So then he says, right before the fight begins, right before the fight begins, he wanted to get an understanding before I beat you down. right here in this place. So you always ask them questions. Are you, what's the question you always ask? Are you talking to me? What'd you just say to me? That's how you start before you get ready to go and get in there and go down. I know. What? That's the second part. I know they didn't just say that. Did they just? It's like you got to get confirmation from everybody around you. So there's a few things that Jesus told the man. He told him, one, you a liar. Why do I get that from? If he were a prophet. So he questioning him. He said, you a liar. Because if he was a prophet, he would know. Then he tells him he was stupid. This is what the man is telling to Jesus. Because if you knew what manner of woman this was, you wouldn't let her touch you. And then he tells Jesus, you're weak. Because she's a sinner. And she shouldn't even be here. That means you're weak. Well, these are fighting words. I'm a liar. I'm stupid. And I'm weak. Oh, no, it's on. So Jesus begins to tell him. He tries to get understanding first. So he tells him about the parable of the debtor. Tells him about one owed 500 and the other one owed 50. And so the man felt like they weren't going to be able to pay. So he went ahead and he forgave him, right? And so Jesus asked the question, which one of them was forgiven more? And the man says, which one was forgiven more, y'all?
The man that owed the most.
The man that owed the most. He said, I will perceive that the man that owed the most is the one that was forgiven the most. This is a powerful question because he's saying there's something wrong with your focus. You don't understand this woman really does deserve forgiveness because of the things she has done, and she's willing to be humble and get it. And so then Jesus addresses some traditions. And he talks bad to the man. First thing he tells him, he says, you didn't give me no water. That's traditional. Right. When a person come into your house.
First thing they didn't wash those feet.
They was traveling in the desert. And he said, but she done sat here and washed my feet with her hair. Which meant that he was worthy to her. Worthy to her. So then he says, you didn't give me no kiss, which is you didn't respect me to give me a kiss to say that I'm worth coming into your house. Then he tells him, and then you didn't anoint me, which was another place of honor that when you have a guest in your house, you anoint them with oil, olive oil, back in that day. And then he tells him, he says, since her sins were for much, she deserved much. Those who give much get much, and those who give little get little. I want to say one more thing, and then I'm going to open the floor up. What was Jesus telling the man? Besides the fact that the woman deserved forgiveness. What was he saying?
Well, I would think he's trying to impart it to the same man's head that you don't judge people. I came to your house and you didn't do this and this and this and this that you should have known to do because I was a guest in your home. But she heard about it. She came in all repentant. And she first was weeping and crying and washing his hair and washing those dirty feet that you said. But they didn't do any of those things.
All you doing is talking about what she done, what she ain't doing.
Right, she be doing all the things that the church is supposed to be doing, okay? Somebody come in off the street.
And they willing.
And willing to just come in and just start doing it. What did you do besides talk? That's what he's doing. She's not worthy because she's a sinner. I want to get. And we all have sinned. He done told me all have sinned and come short, so they made them sin too.
Exactly.
But he wasn't doing anything, just talking. We have a lot of people that have the person that's working and the person that's not doing anything, giving a lip service. You talk about the person that's doing his job.
Exactly. Exactly.
That's what church is.
I
I've been in
believe.
church a long time anyway.
Do you have a comment?
Yeah, I just want to say, before we get too hard on the Pharisee, we have to look at ourselves as well. Because the Pharisee did what a lot of us does.
Exactly.
When we see people that are from the streets or from bad backgrounds come up to the altar, one of the first things that crossed our mind, what are they doing up there?
You know, that's what that's what you're supposed to be in
What makes it so bad that they up there?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
When
Exactly.
Jesus was really showing us that we should be non-judgmental,
That's it.
and that we should allow people to come into the house of the Lord and to accept them. You know what I'm saying? And even though they don't have it all together, they're a work in progress. So you may still see some of those remnants that you saw in the street. God is still yet working on them.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the church supposed to show love to you, not that other stuff.
Give them
If you know, then you teach the ones that don't know. But we don't do that.
Exactly.
That makes us Pharisees
No, we
too.
wanna hinder them right there in that track. We wanna try to get them out there in that track.
Exactly. Exactly.
And the Pharisee, at least one thing he did do, he invited Jesus over.
Right.
A lot of us won't even invite him over.
And I want him in there so he can show them.
Even if he did proceed to try to tell them what to do.
Right.
Uh-huh. Exactly.
He was trying to tell them what to do
Exactly.
once he got in there.
So what we see, one of the other great things that we see, that Jesus actually just put the mirror up to his face. And he told him, look, don't be looking at her.
That's it.
You need to look at yourself. Or for me, I need to be examined so I can get my heart right. She about to go where she needs to go. But you're the one stuck in tradition, stuck at the church, not doing not living up to your full potential. That's what he was trying to do. He was trying to let him know, man, you about to be lost.